And we are live, Monty. What's up?
We're starting the show. Okay, we're starting the town hall meeting. I'm sorry, I was trying to imitate a deer in the headlights to start it off, but it's great to have everybody, all our members, everybody that's come this far on the town hall meeting. It's fantastic to be here again. It's been a year. I would hasten to say it was an exciting year. It was something though, hasn't it been? It's been it's been an interesting one, and I hope everyone's excited. I think a lot of us have gotten back to shows, got back to doing live shows. I for one have had to start to learn to use my calendar again. I didn't think using a calendar would be a skill that I would have got rusty on, but apparently it's taken a little getting back into the mix because I missed a couple shows because again I had them in the calendar, and it was a little bit of a learning curve again apparently on that. So like I say, it's great to be here. Glad everyone that was able to tune in, and we've a little bit of a rundown of what CASC has been up to this year. Much like everybody, we're in a little bit of a standby mode, kind of coming into the winter time, particularly. We had just kind of finished late last year with our charity drive, and we distributed money to as many comedians as we could, and we were pleased with that. But going in again with another shutdown, one of the first things we were doing was speaking to local MPs and MPPs and trying anybody basically in government that would speak to us, that would lend us an ear, that wanted to hear about the plight of comics, and at least listen to our voice, and hopefully they were able to relate that to the powers that be a little bit further along the line, and things continued with the CRB and all that. Again, I think all the collective voices of the people that are in any kind of a gig economy were effective in that, and I'm sure we were one of them. We later this year, we spoke. We were talking with the Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson about the city of Toronto and the community of comedy, perhaps being able to make some alliances and try to promote comedy, and in Toronto particularly, but across the board in this region. And it was some preliminary talks into what could be possible, and Deputy Mayor was really quite interested in various things going on, so it was encouraging, and it was another kind of step of people, I think, kind of recognizing that comedy is important to Toronto, it's important to the country of Canada, so maybe they should lend an ear and try to facilitate us doing comedy around the city and around the country. We continued to meet, and we've got a really decent understanding, some really good meetings with the CRTC, and sharing our voice with the CRTC about various everything to do with Canadian broadcasting, Canadian content, particularly relevant to comedians across the board. So we've been able to have a good dialogue with them, and we were able to do that throughout the year. So I was really pleased to again have an open dialogue with the CRTC, so at least they know what our concerns are, and how it relates, how they can help, or at least they know where we are coming from, and trying to relate our concerns and how they would fit into that. So that's been an important conversation to have with them, because it's obviously an important topic for all of us. And beyond that, we've been, again, one of our main goals is to fight to make comedy, as an art form, and when it comes to getting grants and anything in regards to that, because up until now it's not been its own category. We had a number of talks with the Canada Council, and they at least related to us. They're well aware of our concerns, and they are updating things. Certainly, no promises were made that we'd be completely satisfied with what went on, but there is a process of updating the kind of guidelines behind getting grants for various things, particularly comedy being one of them. So we're of course still working towards that, but it seems like some forward progress is being made, and we're going to be waiting for the next months to see how it all pans out when it's all said and done. So those are the things we've been up to this year, that just thus far, and from there, that's a little start to the meeting. I'm going to open it up to Joanne Britton, who handles just about everything for us, and a member of the board. Let's hear it for Joanne. Well, let's hear it for Joanne. How about you just listen to Joanne?
Thanks, Monty. What's up, everybody? My purpose will be brief, but very purposeful. So voting is open now. All you have to do is go to canadianstandup.ca, and you will see a big orange button right on the top right side. It says vote here. Click on that big orange button. It will bring you to a page to log into your account. Log into your account, and then it will bring you to another page where you can vote. Only one question this year: do you like the budget or do you not like the budget? Yes or no? That's it, that's all. So the voting will be open from now until 9 o'clock. And by tomorrow morning, we'll be able to tell you the answer, what the people say. So if you're not a member right now and you would like to vote, you can do that. So come on down, become a member, a monthly member or an annual member. We want you to join us. So with that, I send you to tell you go vote. And I'm going to pass the mic to Nick, who's going to talk about that beautiful budget, actually. Bam.
Thank you, Joe. That was a great intro. I appreciate you saying vote on the budget whether you like it or not, which is basically just condemnation of me as the brand new treasurer. So if you don't like the budget, I guess that's a very loud message. But I guess before I get into the actual numbers and demonstrating to you guys what we've worked on as a team, I guess for those of you who don't know me, I should introduce myself, given I was named treasurer of CASC back in either January or February of 2021. My name is Nick Dury. I'm a comedian based in Toronto. I have a full-time job where I manage a lot of budgets and a lot of projects and those types of things. I was quite honored by Monty and the board to ask me to come on to CASC and to serve as treasurer. And managing the money and managing specifically your money is something I take really seriously, and something I want to base, what we're going to do and what we're going to spend money on real numbers and on actual data and facts that we have. And I think that as I present this, you'll see that is going to be reflected there. Available anytime outside of these types of purviews to answer any of your questions that you might have around where the money is and what the money is spent on and where the money goes and those types of things. So without further ado, I would like to present the budget that we have. This is an Excel spreadsheet, which I know is everyone's favorite thing to do at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Tuesday evening, is to look at a complicated Excel spreadsheet. But we don't have really many other ways of demonstrating the real numbers to you guys other than this. So I'm going to jump right into it. All right. Okay, so for the purposes of this meeting, and I'm going to try to be as brief as possible without skirting over some of these numbers, tried to color code things so it's a little bit visually more appealing to you, but really we're focusing on, and what you're going to be focusing on is column B, which is highlighted in yellow here. But I did want to provide some context as to why we landed on some of the numbers we landed on, which is why I've also highlighted in that pinkish color or column D some of the captures of what we've spent over the previous year, just so that you can do a bit of a one-to-one comparison of some of these numbers that we've landed on. And I'll just, as a brief description on column A, what we've done is we've inherited previous budgets that the team has worked on over the number of years since CASC was originated. And I just wanted to capture some of the ideas that people had in terms of hey, it would be really great to have an executive director or an administrative coordinator or those types of things. So that we didn't forget that those were important parts of the conversation that either various CASC members or board members brought up as potentially a viable thing for CASC to invest your money in, so that we could also just have an open conversation around why we've decided to not pursue those things anymore. And given the actual numbers that we're sitting on and where we're at from a financial perspective, maybe it doesn't make sense to try to do moonshots, if you will, or go for some of these big ticket items, if you will, because it just doesn't make sense from an actual budget perspective. So again, what you're going to be voting on is what's highlighted in yellow in column B. So let me just walk through this. I'll go through it really quickly line by line because I certainly don't want to take up the entire time talking about numbers. We've decided not to pursue at this stage an executive director. This is something that CASC and the board has discussed could be, in the future, a really key role for CASC in us moving forward, but where we're at financially, we just don't believe that our money is best spent in this coming financial year on an executive director at this stage. And I'll talk a little bit later as I scroll down the screen as to why that is. Similar with an administration coordinator would be a really nice to have, but can we afford it? And is that our best spend of money at this stage? We didn't agree that was the best way to spend our money. We do still strongly believe in lobbyists. So we've earmarked some funds, less so than we forecasted for last year in terms of lobbyists. I think the justification for a little bit less than last year is really just because the pandemic shut everything down. We didn't really have the access to lobbyists. We didn't really have any, what were they going to lobby us for type of thing. So we have earmarked a slight decrease in funds over the previous year projected here, which you can see in column C8. So $3,500 for lobbyist contractors. In terms of elected officer appearance honorariums, this is an area that we didn't really think was important for us to pursue this year. Communications, advertising, social media, marketing, and website. That is a lot of things, and a lot of things could be allocated to that cost. You'll see over here, I have put the actuals of we've spent 174. That's really, frankly, on just managing the website. That's not capturing all the things in terms from communications, advertising, social media, marketing, and website thing we can do. So the board just felt it was important to earmark $2,000 just to capture all things that we're going to do from a communications and social media marketing standpoint. We still believe in developmental foundation funding, earmarking $1,000 to CanCon. We've not spent any money in the previous budget on that, but we've earmarked $1,000 there. Excuse me, postage and couriers. This is really just office administration type things. We threw $100 in there for that. What you'll now see is where we're spending a lot of our money. And if we're just being transparent as an organization, if I scroll over to column D here, where we're spending the bulk of our money is really on just legitimizing us as an organization. This is just sort of the way that Canadian business and Canadian fundraising and these types of organizations go. But this is where we've spent the bulk of our money. We spent the bulk of our money on lawyers and on accountants doing our taxes. That is just the reality of where we're at as an organization. So we've earmarked money to cover the cost or the predictive costs that we're going to see in the forthcoming year on those things. Similarly to legal and accounting, the other large sort of ticket item, I guess I'll say, is on liability insurance. So far this year, we've spent $655 and $56 on liability insurance. Have earmarked $1,000 for the forthcoming budget to cover any fees there. And then the remaining items here, bank fees, just really administrative costs. We've not actually spent anything on bank fees, but threw in a couple or at least $100 there. And then simply just managing the website and things like GoDaddy fees. We've spent $273.81 there. So we've just earmarked $500 in that respect. So the total budget of what we forecast to spend in the forthcoming year is $11,000. How did we land on that number? Well, we landed on that number not just simply on what we would like to do, but we landed on that number of where are we sitting financially and where can we reasonably think we're going to go in the future. So what I'm showing you now, what might be the most interesting column for you to view is column D, because I wanted to represent the actuals from the previous budget year and to give you a clear view of where we're at. and then that sort of contextualizes or at least fed what we're predicting to spend in the coming year. So I'm just going to be focusing on column D right now. We had 122 paying members to CASC. We appreciate all 122 of you. I think you guys are awesome. And this just shows you where we were from a financial perspective. So in terms of voting for this budget, I want to at least provide that context. Here's what our thinking was for 2022. So now I'm just popping over to column B and highlighting that here. We are forecasting for 200 additional, or 200 members total that are going to be fee-paying CASC members for the forthcoming financial period. You can see here, and I apologize if I confuse you in any way, but I really just wanted to walk you through our thinking. We did include this column C, which was a projected budget. So this was a year ago when we were projecting and forecasting what we would do. Those working on the budget said we would like 600 members. Well, clearly we didn't get 600 members. We got 122. So I just thought it was financially irresponsible to maybe say, yeah, let's shoot for 600 again, given the pandemic, given we're all just getting back to everything. So we said, you know what, 200 is reasonable. If we get 200 members, that's going to net us $10,000. We have received some donations from people who have put on shows and want to donate to CASC, and we can, reasonably foresee that coming in the future. And so we're happy to report a balanced budget of, we would like to spend 11,000 of your dollars, and we would like to receive 11,000 of your dollars for a fully balanced budget for the forthcoming financial period. And if anyone is interested whatsoever, I'm just highlighting line 43 here. This is the existing balance in the Scotiabank account. So this is the CASC bank account that I manage. This is the existing budget. And if any of you took accounting in college or university or any of those types of things and would like to see the sort of accounting speak of where we're sitting from an assets, liabilities, revenue, and net perspective, this little box over here in column G captures that. So that's all I have on the budget. I know I threw a lot at you. I know it probably jumbled from place to place. We've got Q&A time at the end, but a lot of my other colleagues have things that they would like to talk to you about as well. So with that, I will pause the financial portion and I believe kick it over, Joe, if you'd like me to Paul to talk about what Paul's going to talk about.
Hey, everybody. Pleasure to be with you again this evening. For those of you out there who do not know me, my name is Paul Snaps. I'm the executive director of the Toronto Sketch Comedy Festival and of its satellite rural comedy series, Comedy Country. So I've been involved with CASC now since May of 2020, and I did so with purpose. I wanted to and have been contributing centering around arts advocacy, specifically writing in the past year, writing policy recommendations for both Canadian Heritage and the Canada Council for the Arts. Those recommendations touched on pandemic supports for artists and for comedians specifically, but also actively advocating for the formal recognition that comedy is art at the Canada Council. Sadly, still lots of work to be done on that front, but as Monty alluded, there is some forward momentum, hopefully. So hopefully we'll see that take shape. And at this moment, I'd like to applaud Conseil des Arts des Lettres du Québec for doing just that, recognizing comedy is art and including it in its funding models. I also stated at our last town hall meeting, my first, where I stated that there is something to a name. CASC began as a collective of stand-up comedians, but continues to expand its scope and to advocate for comedians working in the disciplines and communities of improv and sketch comedy as well. And so we've officially changed the name of the organization, and it will now and forever hopefully be called the Canadian Association of Stand-Up, Sketch, and Improv Comedians. So to include those communities in name and formally recognize that this indeed is an association of comedies in multiple disciplines across the country. And so with that announcement, I'd like to renew my call, the call I made last time we were together, to folks in those disciplines and in those communities to believe in this organization and to participate in its efforts to create conditions for your success and to push for inclusion and recognition of your art in the eyes of the Canadian performing arts funding ecosystem. And the way to do that is to become a member of CASC. I implore you to do it. It's cost effective and you get all kinds of bang for your buck, including we just heard from Nick going through financial information. As you can see there is no financial compensation for any of the people that you're meeting tonight doing this work on your behalf. And so I would love it if everybody in your own way, in your own home today, just give a little round of applause to everybody here on this call and the folks that preceded us for the amount of work and organization that, and thought and heart and blood and tears and sweat that are going into trying to professionalize this this wild west that is comedy, and to have our concerns heard and have our work recognized in this country. So that's it for me. I will continue to advocate on those particular portfolios, and yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone at Sketchfest in March in the flesh. Cool. So I'm going to pass it on now back to Jo, and she will bring on the next speaker. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bam. All right. Yes, I am passing the people along. So who's coming up next? Yes. All right. We got a very awesome special person coming up next. Roxanne Dubois from Unifor. She's going to give us the lowdown on how Unifor can actually really benefit CASC and bring us into the next century, maybe. So without further ado, Roxanne.
Hello, thanks so much. Hi everybody, my name is Roxanne. I work at the Unifor National Office, and I'm responsible, oh, I forgot my extra light here, so there we go. I'm responsible for a project called Community Chapters, so I'm here to tell you a little bit about that today. I have a little slide deck, but I might need somebody in the back end to just show that, I don't know, there we go, yay, it's there, it all works. Thank you to the excellent team. Okay, so at Unifor we have a program called Community Chapter. Unifor is a national union, so maybe just to start it, you know, from the bottom here, we're a national union. We represent about 315,000 workers across Canada in a number of different industries, from the airlines to the telecommunications to healthcare and the service industry and retail. And we also have media workers that are represented by Unifor. And one of the programs that I'm here to talk to you about is called Community Chapters. It is a model that really recognizes that as a result of decades of labor laws that don't necessarily work for workers, there are a number of people who fall outside of labor laws as they are today in Ontario or in Canada. And as a result, a lot of people can't actually join a union, even if they wanted to. And so the Community Chapter Project really recognizes that there's a number of groups of people, workers who are independent contractors or gig workers, or folks who would maybe want to organize an association but can't necessarily do it because there's quite a stringent process, a legal process to actually access collective bargaining and a union in Canada. So, and it's a reflection of decades of changes to the labor market. We see more precarious work now, more people working part-time. We don't even have to talk about the pandemic. You folks are very knowledgeable about the impacts of the pandemic on a number of working people, the contracts that you might have been able to access during this time or not access. All of that means that things are pretty difficult out there for workers. And the project really starts from the premise that we need to organize in new ways. We need to recognize that workers need to build power in different ways in order to bring attention to their situation, to bring improvements to their conditions of work, and achieve justice in a number of spheres. So community chapters are a project to support workers who want to organize, advocate for improvements, and raise standards. So sometimes that looks like higher wages. Sometimes that looks like respect on the job. And sometimes that is as easy as, not being harassed or having process to deal with favoritism in the workplace or in your conditions of work. That's what we qualify as justice, at work. Obviously, it starts from the premise that we're stronger together. You folks know this. You have an association. You're already organized in a certain structure that allows you to do things together, to identify priorities, to vote in favor of budgets, and to decide together what you want to do with the resources that you pool. Community chapters are a pathway to union membership for exactly the workers that can't necessarily join a union through traditional means. Just because the legal or the legal laws, the labor laws don't allow you to have a union, we think you should still be able to join a union if you want, especially that's a platform to organize a greater community and more workers into your association. And obviously, organizing in a union or a community chapter is about breaking down isolation and building community. Especially in these times where we live, things are really tough right now. There's lots of things that are weighing people down. Working is difficult, and all of our personal lives are also difficult as well. Being at home in isolation for extended period of times has not been easy on anybody. So organizing a union and an association like yours is also about creating the community that we can build from. So what does it mean? Just to kind of back up, in Unifor, we have three types of membership. We have members who have collective bargainings, so that's the majority of our members. We have members in retiree chapters, so those are members who have retired from their work but are still have an ability to be a union member. And then we have community chapter members, which is an entire type of membership that exists within our union. So when there is a community chapter that is active, I'll give you an example a bit later that will be fairly similar to the model that you have or to the organization that you have. There are some services that come with this arrangement. Obviously, political representation. Our union is active in all provinces, in a number of sectors of the economy, and on a number of social justice issues. We have a national president who you might have seen in the media before. His name is Jerry Dias. He's often in the media, whether it has to do with bargaining with some of Canada's major employers and companies, or whether it has to do with a number of social justice issues that he will take on. He's in the news a fair bit, and he does have political contacts in Ottawa, in the various levels of government. And so political representation is something that happens when you have a strong democratic structure. As a union, we have elected representatives at all levels. Provincial, we even have some in workplaces. That's what a local union will be. And it's part of how we advance change. So we also have a network of support, of strong local unions. Local unions are essentially the smaller unions that make up Unifor, and they're present in communities across the country. A number of them offer direct member services, are a strong political voice in their communities, and also a great place to kind of exchange and network with other folks from the union. Obviously, one of the most interesting services for a group like CASC to consider is access to unions, staff, and departments. So we have a number of specialized departments that provide support to our many local unions and members across the country. Health and safety, so that means everything from developing a pandemic protocol for your workplace to responding to injury on the job, also fighting harassment and discrimination on the job. That falls into health and safety. We have a research department that produces reports and analysis on the economy and on a number of things that are happening out in the world and in the workplace. We have a legal department, which is essentially a bunch of lawyers, worker side lawyers that really help folks work through different issues. We have a communications department that does everything from website to social media to press conferences and media relations. We have a human rights department who is actually very, very important in developing anti-harassment policies and talking about inclusivity in the workplace and equity for employment conditions and pay equity and all sorts of other issues like that. A union, of course, also is a space to organize and strategize for your community. We provide access to health and dental benefits plans. So this might be something that you might be interested in opting into if you're somebody who hasn't had necessarily benefits through work for a number of years. We actually have access to health and dental benefit plans that are available to community chapter members for opt-in rates. There's different plans. There's about 8 different plans that you can opt into. We also have group home and auto insurance plans available to union members. And then we have a service which is essentially dues collection. So when you're a typical union member and you have a collective agreement with the union, of course, you pay dues to the union. The union keeps those dues, but will represent you as a union member. And so we'll bargain your collective agreement. If you have grievances, the union will kind of step up and help you through that. The community chapter model is a bit different because it doesn't quite involve having a collective agreement. But one of the services that we offer is that the dues that each member that the organization will collect through the program actually are not retained by the union. They are retained by the chapter, the organization, the association, in order to develop programming, offer training, develop campaigns, run advocacy, maybe do lobbying, maybe pay executive members a certain per diem or amount of money to conduct some of the work of the association. So that's one of the big services. And I'll mention it now. And of course, there may be questions afterward and I'd be happy to answer them. But the set dues for community chapter membership is $10 per month per member. So it turns up to being about $120 a year, which I know is not exactly the dues that CASC members pay at the moment, but I'll let your leadership discuss that afterwards if you'd like. And also I can answer any questions. So there's one example of an active community chapter that I wanted to share with you because it's very similar, I think, in terms of the association model that you have as an association. It's the Canadian Freelance Union. So the CFU represents roughly 200 members in media and communications, but they're freelancers. So anything from web designers to graphic designers to photographers to journalists and writers. Anybody who's a freelance communication specialist can be a member of the Canadian Freelance Union. They have a website, so I'll encourage you to go check it out. They have, some of the fun stuff that they've been up to. They run campaigns. It's CanadianFreelanceUnion.ca. They're a union for self-employed folks. They have a very active executive and some membership that really participate. They do anything from social events, pub nights. Well, when we were doing in-person stuff, it was anything from trivia and pub night to speaking events with guest speakers, either online or in person. They also run tax workshops, so during tax season to help members file taxes as independent contractors or as freelancers. Sometimes there are some tricks there that you can learn from other freelancers. So I'd encourage you to check out their model. They're a very active chapter with Unifor, and we love having them and working with them. So in terms of the process, I'm going to stop here because I know you have a number of things on your agenda and I don't want to take up all the time. But there's 2 kind of processes to follow here in terms of next steps or forming a community chapter. There's the idea of forming a chapter from scratch, where a group of workers would kind of come to the union and develop, essentially invent the structure through which they would associate or organize as a community chapter. But there's also this idea that there is an existing association that might be interested in exploring ways of falling under the Unifor banner under the model of a community chapter. So in the case of an existing association, we would likely kind of explore it that way. Of course, we have to work through details, questions, develop terms of the community chapter. There's, there's a way that every association does things at the moment, and then there's a way that the union will kind of prescribe things to be done. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of finding the middle ground and finding where we can really work together as a union, as an association, to build from each other's strengths. If the membership here and if the executive were interested in pursuing, then one of the next step would be a meeting between your executive and our executive, just to basically have a chance to meet and exchange objectives and see what the project could be about and see what the future would look like under the life for a community chapter for CASC. And then it would require a vote and a lot of kind of planning for the future. So, of course, in terms of considerations, and hopefully your exec members will be able to add here, but it's always good to ask kind of what are the priority objectives and demands of the association to represent your membership and bring improvements to the community's working conditions. How will forming a community chapter help the association develop its goals? How can forming a community chapter with Unifor help the association expand and broaden its work? And I can just encourage you to think about, if you're having a campaign or a dispute or something that you're trying to draw attention to, Unifor has a fairly wide reach. So our ability to support your campaign, to amplify what you're doing, especially when it comes to workers' rights, workers' respect on the job, improving working conditions. And also because of our media sector, we have a lot of stuff about Canadian content. So maybe there's a natural connection there with our media members, where we do lots of government advocacy to support content creation in Canada and the artists behind it. So I'm going to leave it there. I was very nervous about making a joke tonight, but I will leave that to the professionals that you all are to keep folks laughing and entertained. And in the meantime, here's my contact information if you want more information, and I will pass it back to your fine executive folks for the rest of the town hall.
Roxanne, thank you so much. It's great you could come on and give us some information about Unifor. Just as way of a bit of an explanation, we wanted to bring Roxanne on to give an explanation to everybody, give an idea as to what Unifor could bring to the table, and to kind of broach the topic of Unifor as a possibility for our membership. This is something that the board is going to be, considering as we go along. We'll be talking with Unifor, and then at a possibility down the road, we would consider putting it to a vote. We would inform you as to exactly what's going to happen, and then we will consider putting it to a vote to our members to say whether or not we want to do it. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that obviously when it comes to dues and that scenario, one of the things that made it viable for us to bring Roxanne on and consider this as a viable option is that any amount of dues, in that case is $10 a month, any amount of dues goes directly to CASC. Unifor will be giving all of the dues to CASC for us to operate and further advocate for you. So it's that was obviously very important to all of us, from the idea that we all know there's a finite amount of money for all of you, our members, and we need that money to be going to us to advocate for you. So from that aspect, it's a very generous offer. So it's definitely something that that we definitely need to consider. So that's what we're going to be doing over this period of time, and we wanted to bring Roxanne on to broach the topic with you and give you some information about it. And then from there, we're going to be taking it and doing further research and talks with them, and down the road when we have another town hall, or further communicate with you as to what we're thinking, and then from there, maybe we would consider having a vote on actually forming a community chapter. So we wanted to broach the topic to let everybody know we're thinking about this and why we're thinking about it, because it sounds like a very viable opportunity that could be very helpful to all of our members. So, and from there, we'll be getting your input if we get more serious about it as a possibility. So, thank you very much, Roxanne. It was excellent to hear from you, and it's a lot of a lot of information to take in, and I'm sure all our members are going to do that, and the executive will do that as we move forward. So moving along with the town hall from there, wanted to bring on another executive member, Tom Hill. Let's hear from Tom about CANCOM.
Thanks, Monty. Hey, everybody. My name's Tom. I'm one of the board members of CASC here. Just want to pick up what Roxanne was saying about jokes. Yeah, I mean, there's been too many jokes in this town hall so far, Roxanne. So thank you for holding off. But seriously, thank you for being here. Thanks for the chats. I wanted to pick up on what Paul said as well. I, like Paul, am more in the sketch and improv world. I'm co-director of Blind Tiger Comedy in Vancouver here. I'm also half of a group called Hip Bang. We do improv and sketch, and that is a big part of what CASC is all about now that we've sort of redirected our focus or broadened our focus to include all comedians. I wanted to just speak to what Paul was saying because I think in general, one thing I've learned in joining this board is how much this organization can mean for advocating for comedians. I think where we've really seen that is just advocacy in general, and that organizations like this really speak the language of government and funding bodies, which aren't ready to meet with 5 local comedians that might have a concern about funding, or might have an issue with how, let's say, COVID funding was handed out to certain kinds of artists, but not others. That issue we've been able to get through and talk to both provincial and federal governments, where they've said to us, it's organizations like CASC that's what they're used to from all other kinds of industries coming forward with advocacy groups. That's the way they're used to being influenced, for lack of a better word. So that's one thing that I've learned about the value of CASC, and I would encourage you to think about that as we all grind away as day-to-day comedians, that organizations like this can be really powerful in giving a voice to comedians, and I think we've already made a lot of great progress in the short time this organization has existed. But to get to my main point, I'm actually also part of CANCOM, a separate federal comedy advocacy board. I wear both hats, which really speaks to an exciting day-to-day life on my end, but really a meaningful one. CANCOM has a couple cool things to announce, especially a grant for and by comedians. It's a brand new comedy creation grant process that CANCOM has announced. It's available now. It is judged and adjudicated by comedians, and it is open to you, the comedians of Canada. The deadline is November 28th. You can get up to $2,000 to make any digital content. That might be filming a live show. It might be building a sizzle reel for a web series, or to submit to some larger process, maybe to shop to production companies, whatever. I know this is exactly the kind of grant I would have loved to have had earlier in my career. Check it out. Do yourself a favor and check it out. All the information is on the CANCOM website, cancomedy.ca. That is cancomedy.ca. There's 2 separate funding streams. One is for all Canadian comedians, and one is for specifically the Tim Sims Encouragement Fund Award, which is for Ontario comedians and specifically comedians working in Toronto in the early parts of their career. But they're both the same adjudication process. We've assembled a national team of comedians to assess these applications. We've done our best to make it a fair and relatively streamlined application process. And we're really excited about it. It's money going to you, comedians, to make comedy. So get involved, take advantage of this. The more we get people involved in getting funded this time, the more money we can get for the next time. This is all supported by Enviva, which is a Canadian owned and operated media company. So we're really thankful to them. But this, mentioning it here now, is just to tell you, go get an application in. You won't regret it. Let's get you some money. Let's get you used to applying for grants, because the more we can build that literacy as a community, the more money we can get as a community. That's my sweet plug for these cool dollars that you can grab. I'm going to pass it back to Monty and Joe. Thanks, everybody.
I love how I just became the host of this whole thing. It's awesome. Okay, so here we're going. Next in line, we got some chatter from Adam. Some very interesting stuff. Take it away.
Yeah, total pro. I'm also on the CANCOM board with Tom and Joe. Joe's on the CANCOM board, and I just voted. I'm also a CASC member. You got to get your membership activated to vote. So do that before 9 tonight. Now, I'm here to talk to you about something. Actually, this is a good transition into what I'm here to talk to you about from CanCom's perspective and for Canadian comedians, because if I had written jokes for Roxanne and she performed this on this recording, technically speaking, we would both be able to collect royalties on that performance. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Very briefly, I just need a few minutes to describe what's happening with regards to literary works, copyright licenses, and royalty payments. Yes. Now, from what we understand, there are millions of dollars of unpaid royalties on recorded spoken word comedy and millions more to expect in the future. Sounds like a good number. Now, this is not only if you have a comedy album. This is in any sort of recording of you or a performance that you've done. So for starters, what's important for you to know is that these royalty payments exist, and you should make sure that you're on record as the recipient of those payments because you've earned them, or you will earn them in the future. So every time you're recorded, there are 2 copyright licenses on your performance. And when your recorded performance is broadcast or played or sold or downloaded or whatever, royalties are typically paid into a big pot. Let's just call it, it's the Squid Game piggy bank. This is what I'm serious. It's a big piggy bank of money, and how they're paid or should be paid into that piggy bank depends on what the source is. Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Pandora, YouTube, TikTok, podcasts, radio, satellite radio. It's very complicated, but they're paid for the most part into the piggy bank, or should be nonetheless, because there's a copyright license and royalties should be paid on that. So then a collection agency like Sound Exchange, you probably all know Sound Exchange, is given your permission to go to that piggy bank and collect on your royalties on the recording. And there are other people collecting on that recording as well, the label, publisher, owner of the master, blah, blah, blah. So for spoken word comedy, there's another collection agency, or a number of them, who are in business, such as Word Collections, one of them that we're in conversation with right now, that will have your permission to go to that piggy bank, like Sound Exchange, but to collect your royalties on your writing, because there's also a copyright on, you wrote your bits, there's a copyright on that, just like there's a recording of you performing your bits. So it's that second of those 2 royalties that's never, ever been paid for spoken word or spoken word comedy. So that doesn't mean that the copyright hasn't already existed. It does. It's the law. You've already earned those royalties if you've been recorded already, and you wrote your material. Roxanne, sorry, I wrote your joke, so I get that one part of it. It's just, it hasn't been collected on your behalf before. So while you're not able to go to the piggy bank yourself, it's important that you claim those royalties using the services of the companies that do this. CanCom is not one of those companies. We don't have the system to collect those royalties. CanCom doesn't draft copyright law, and we don't have any sort of mechanisms to collect on them. So we're looking to collaborate with companies that are already in the business of doing this, as well as other industry stakeholders, in order to strengthen the Canadian comedy industry. So if you decide not to claim your royalties, there are 3 things that could happen to those royalties. And just the second part, not the recording. You're probably already getting that if you have a comedy album or if you've been on YouTube or TikTok, whatever, that's separate. The second one, I'm talking about the literary, you're writing. So 1 of 3 things could happen. Someone else could collect them instead of you. It's been happening, less than likely, but it could happen. So be aware of that. We're here to inform you. The second thing that's more likely is that they expire. And they're in the piggy bank, but they go back to the company that put them in the piggy bank in the first place. I don't know if it's 3 years, 5 years, whatever. Or 3, they were never put into the piggy bank in the first place. And now that you're claiming them, they're going to have to be. So in response to this information that we've just become aware of, CanCom is working on a proposal to make this as sustainable as possible for all stakeholders and help you get the royalties you've earned or will be earning. And nothing's been finalized, but what we've drafted thus far and what's on the table for consideration is intended to accomplish these things. Give you a better rate on the services that these companies will charge you to get those royalties. Invest in new content from Canadian comedians, and negotiate on behalf of Canadian comedians a balanced approach so that this continues to be a healthy ecosystem. We want everybody involved in, where it's broadcast, where it's streamed, where it's downloaded, where the collections agencies get it, how you get it. We want all that intact. So we don't want to unravel anything. So as a CanCom member, which is free, I shouldn't even bring up CANCOM membership. Become a CASC member, renew your membership, and vote tonight. Forget the CANCOM membership. What we're just trying to do is connect you with a collection agency such as Word Collections, who we're in conversation with, because they've been responsive to all of the concerns I just mentioned. When they collect the royalties for you, they'll give you a bit of a break because there's a lot of Canadian comedians. They'll invest some of their own earnings into new content, and they'll be fair, sustainable on the marketplace, right? So we're not at this point in time finalize those details. Eventually, get your CASC membership done now, vote on it. If you do down the road become a CANCOM member, first of all, becoming a CANCOM member, you can do both now. It's free to become a CANCOM member, and that also gives you an opportunity to apply for the grants that Tom just brought up, as well as nominate yourself or somebody for the Tim Sims Encouragement Fund Award. You just need a membership to do that. So that's why we're asking you to do that, to leverage the best rate as possible, get new investment in new content from Canadians, and be sustainable on the market. Now, at the end of the day, just so you know, you can sign with whomever you want. We're just trying to get you informed about what's going on with literary rights. And while there's no obligation for these collection agencies to reduce their rates or invest in new content from Canadians or a balanced approach, Word Collection has been agreeable to all of those shared interests and concerns. And so the last point I want to make about it, and then I'll throw it back, is you might be asking, what's at stake for CANCOM? Why are you so excited about this? Because you said, it's like millions, and literally it's like tens of thousands of millions, of like 70 plus millions of dollars that's been unclaimed, and over the next future years in terms of what will be paid on this. So what's at stake for CANCOM is obviously we'll be able to further fulfill our goal to invest in Canadian comedians like we are right now with our grants. And this is being done in a way that's never been done in the history of this country. Never before at a national level have comedians been able to apply for a grant as comedians to fund comedy in the full breadth of what comedians do. Improv, sketch, stand-up, it's never been done before. So we're doing that for you. So the literary rights, I did some number crunching, and if there was $1 million collected for Canadian comedians on literary rights, this new pathway that's never been collected before, most of that is obviously distributed to you as the writers. And then there's a portion of it that comes to CANCOM to invest in new content. And of that, for our operations, I crunched the numbers, and this is the proposal that we wrote. From $1 million, what's at stake for CANCOM is $1,000 for our operations. So we're excited about it because it's a new opportunity for you to generate revenue to create your content. And at the end of the day, it fulfills our goal. So eventually, vote now, become a CASC member, then become a CANCOM member, get your application in for the grant, nominate someone for Tim Sims, and then we'll let you know when we've got things in play for your literary rights. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. Yes, become a CASC member, become a CANCOM member, because in the end, the two entities work together to get you what you need as a comic, all right? So let's bring up Charlie and Drew, talk about some membership action. Charlie.
Hey, keep it going for your MC. Keep it going for your MC, Joe.
I didn't realize this is the duo part of the presentation. I didn't realize.
This is all part of the new commitment to sketch. Now we need an occupation. Drew, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I currently occupy the role of the funding officer here at CASC, and my partner here on the West Coast. That's your cue, Charlie.
Oh, over here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's Charlie Demers here in Vancouver. I am the membership officer for CASC, as I have been for I think about 2 years. All of the pandemic and a little bit of change before things moved into the current transpirings.
And pretty much why we're now given the stage is because we want to reiterate and remind everyone on the call, if you haven't already, pardon me, to become a member and to sign up to pay your yearly membership fee. As it stands currently, it's $5 a month or $50 a year. And additionally, to tell others at shows within the community, especially those in the sketch and improv community, now that we have changed the name, we are actively appealing to you guys as well. We always were, but now we are especially, to sign up and join, because we have much more power when we're well funded and we're working together in unison than we do trying to advocate individually, one-on-one, as has been said and reiterated many times on this call and within the mandate of CASC. So I'll give it to Charlie a bit more about what can be done on the individual level and collectively to help bring more members into CASC.
Yeah, so thanks, Drew. This is a decisive time, and it's one that is sort of fraught with peril, and it's also one that is pregnant with possibilities. So things really could go either way for the comedy community in this country, as the clubs are opening back up, theaters are opening back up, borders are opening back up. And life is creeping back to something, if not normal, at least a more stable abnormal. We're going into green rooms with each other again, which is an incredible feeling. We're getting into fully seated comedy clubs. I was in Victoria, not last weekend, but Halloween weekend, performing for my first full capacity audiences since December 2019, which I know the pandemic didn't start for another 3 months, but maybe I had some trouble drawing crowds in the intervening months before the spring started. The point is that we are at a place where a lot of us are feeling great. The festivals are starting again. We're getting to see each other again in non-virtual capacities, and that's wonderful. We're also now getting contacted by bookers, by producers, by live performance agents with offers for live performances, for Christmas parties that are actually happening in rooms full of people again for the first time in more than a year, and it is quite possible that the people on the other side of the line are going to try and use this opportunity to reset the price of comedy in this country. They know that we're hungry to get back on stage. They know that a lot of us have taken other jobs to get groceries into our cupboards and onto the table over the course of the last 20 months. They know that the situation has changed. So clubs that know that we're hungry for stage time, people are going to try and make the case that we should be working for less, that we can work for less, that we're out of practice. All of these things that bookers are bottlenecked, that there's a lineup out the door of people waiting to get up on those stages if you won't work for the rates that you're being offered. So unity right now, solidarity right now are more important than they have been literally since we came close to losing Sound Exchange. So this is really a time that we're all very excited about. But it's also a time where we really are in a position where we have to shit or get off the pot. Like the comedy community in this country needs to decide if CASC is going to be a functional, funded body that can operate as this hybrid thing that it is, of a professional association, kind of a union, kind of a lobby group, the clearinghouse that looks after comedians when a once in a century cataclysm hits and disperses tens of thousands of dollars of funds when all the taps go off and our backs are up against the wall. If this organization means something to Canadian comedy, if this organization is going to be in a position to fight for us to have the conditions that we want to move into a better post-pandemic future, let alone not rolling back from the status quo ante from the before times, we need to put our money where our mouth is. That means we need paid memberships. At this point in time, to sign up without being able to pay the membership, I know that it's been a really tough time. It's been a really tough time for all of us. If a paid membership is a genuine obstacle to you being a member of CASC, reach out to us. Reach out to us privately. That kind of thing is always going to be confidential. Let us know. We will work something out. But we need for our members to be paid up members. We need for to be able to count on that kind of war chest to know that we can do the work that this organization needs to do to fight to reshape this industry, to hold the ground that we have, and to fight for better. So we're going to be looking at the proposal that Roxanne put before you this evening. As Monty said, we're going to be looking at that. I'm asking you to, if you haven't joined as a paid member, please do sign up. You'll be automatically renewed. It's as easy as pie. If you are signed up, please talk to your friends. The next time you're in a green room, talk to the new comics you're working with. Talk to your middles. Talk to your MCs. Talk to your headliners if you're a middle. Get signed up to CASC, and let's just make it a given thing that if you are a comedian in this country, you are a dues-paying CASC member, because that's how we stick together and that's how we've got each other's backs.
Well said.
Bam! That's what that needed, a bam!
She just popped back up. You know, like when you're in the club and the MC pops back through the curtain. See, that's we have learned to adapt to the new situation. Drew, have I left anything out?
Is Drew frozen?
He's either frozen or very, very slow.
Yes, he might be frozen.
I was worried that maybe I was frozen, but my CNN crawl at the bottom of the screen has continued moving, so I know that everything's okay.
No. So yes, that brings us to.
Thank you, everyone. Love you all.
Bam. Well, that brings us to questions, or I'm just going to bring everybody up on the screen. You're not getting away that easily. And I'll leave it open for 5 minutes. See if anybody has any questions for us or Roxanne. Anybody else has anything else to say? Please add a do. Oh.
Excellent job, Charlie, Drew, everybody who's on the show tonight, or everybody who's on the town hall. I can't stop doing shows.
For everybody you saw tonight.
Love it. Okay, yep. Oh yes, did wanted to mention that we do have that new option for $5 a month. You can become a member. So if you can't afford the $50 a year, $5 monthly membership, man. That's it. So I'm gonna put that link in the chat down there.
Man, the budget on this new Hollywood Squares remake is really low.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great compliment, Charlie.
This is like my 17-year-old daughter who watches The Bachelor in Paradise and says the Canadian one is in North Bay and they're in a bouncy castle. But this looks like I love it. I've lived in StreamYard for like 18 months. This is all I've been performing in. I love this venue.
Yeah, it is.
I can tell by your custom wall.
Yeah, right?
We walked Drew.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam, the brick on brick is really working for you. Looks
I know,
great.
right? All I've got is bricks. I've got like white bricks, black bricks, etc.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions coming in, but voting will be open for another hour, and the stream will be available as soon as we shut down the broadcast, so people, you can rewatch it again. So yeah, any last adieux? Any goodbyes, people? Any last thoughts?
Thank you, CASC.
Thank you, Roxanne, for coming. That was great.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I had a couple.
It was my very first comedy show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roxanne.
You crushed. You absolutely killed.
There you are. I was wondering where Drew was. Oh, still no Drew. He's still very well frozen. I don't know what's going on. But we love you, Drew. We love you. All right. Monty, any last words from Presidente?
Yeah, I don't know if I like it put like that, but probably last words for the town hall. I'm hoping to speak further later. Well,
touche.
I aspire to more words, but for this, these will be the last for me. Similar to Charlie's sentiments, obviously, the pandemic's been hard for all of us and hard for all of you. And what's, I think, kept everybody on the board working towards this is how we all know how important this is, because comedy is always hard, but this CASC has an opportunity to make it easier, and it needs to be easier, and we really believe that not only has it helped, but it will continue to help. So thank you very much to the 125 members that we have that are paying members, and as Drew and Charlie were saying, was like anybody who's on the fence, who maybe you don't do that much comedy, but you're like, oh, why should I bother? It's like, well, if you want to, this is an investment in your being able to, at a better level, and basically anybody who's involved at all, this will benefit you, maybe in small ways, and maybe you won't notice, but you may notice that comedy was in kind of a messed up state before CASC got here. And we've made little strides to make it a little bit better. But the longer we can go and the stronger our organization can be, the better it's going to be. Maybe 10 years down the road, people will be looking at comedy going, wow, this is actually not that bad. And hopefully we could be an impetus behind that happening. So anybody who's, you're kind of like, oh, what for? Well, it's an investment in your future, even if you do it and you're not that serious about it. It's an investment in your future that it's a better thing to spend your time doing, because it'll be in a better environment for everybody. So I was just wanted to say, look into your hearts. No, look into the practicality of it. It's important that we're as strong as possible. And I wanted to thank some thank yous. I wanted to thank everyone that's donated. We've had numerous people this year, right when the pandemic started up, put a portion of the proceeds of their shows to CASC, and it was very helpful. We've had we always have some people donating just out of the kindness of their heart, may not even be involved in the comedy industry. So thank you to all of you. I wanted to thank all the board members, because this was my first year taking over for Sandra as president, and everybody has been nothing but great and helpful. And so I wanted to thank all of you, and thank you all for all that you're doing, because again, it's not happening without us, and each and every one of you have been instrumental in doing it. So I wanted to thank you all. I wanted to thank Roxanne for coming out and illuminating us to the possibilities of Unifor, and I wanted to thank all of the members. I wanted to thank literally every single member that we've got. First of all, not just to exclude anybody else. But I wanted to thank absolutely everybody, because it's obviously without we're the community, and with your support, we're going to be able to continue to keep moving forward. So God bless us, everybody.
And God bless Robin Hood. Yes, definitely. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for enjoying. Thank you for watching. There's still time to vote, and your support is much appreciated.
Thank you to Joe, who's doing this out of the kindness of her heart. Thank you, Joe. We couldn't do this without you.
I love you people. You're my people. And as long as I stand, I shall fight for y'all. Peace.
Joe, you're the absolute